Okay, there'll be a series of videos on factoring, different methods for factoring. And this one is going to start off using a method you're familiar with, which is basically guess and check. When I say to factor a trinomial, right, we're going to factor it into two pieces, and we know that these two places have to multiply together to get this value. So this is going to be x times x. We also know that these two values here are going to have to multiply together to get this third term. So we generally factor it. We say 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4, and I usually use a systematic method. We also know that these two values over here, these two factors of this number, are going to either add together or subtract. Subtracting is just adding a negative to get this middle number. And we see that 1 and 12 is going to add up to 13. So we put a 1 and we put a 12 here. We see that all the signs are positive. This becomes positive, and we have factored this. Okay, so a guess and check method, you can kind of see how this works, and it works pretty well, especially if this first number is a 1, if A is 1, and if these numbers are not. But sometimes you get into a more complicated method, and that's what we're going to do next. This one's not an overly complicated problem, but I want to use it to demonstrate a method that will work every single time. We remember from using quadratics that this is A, this is B, and this is C. All right, so I'm going to use a method called the X method. And what we're going to do is we're going to take the A coefficient and multiply it times the C coefficient and write it here. And then we're just going to write the B coefficient down here. And so if I did this over here, I'll do it over on this side. A times C would be 8, and B is 9. So what I want here, these are going to be factors. And the final thing that I will do is I'm going to divide each of the factors by A, whatever it is. And then that will help me to factor it, and I'll show you in a second. All right, so this is A times C. I need the factors of 8 that add up to 9. We just did that before. We're just doing it in an X, right? So I've got 1 and 8, 2 and 4. The only ones that add up to 9 are 1 and 8. Okay, so 1 times 8 is 8, and 1 plus 8 is 9. You can see how that works. The last thing you want to do is you want to divide both of the factors by my A. This 1/2 does not reduce, but 8 over 2 does. 8 over 2 is 4. And from that, you will write the factors. The factors will be 2x plus 1, and then just x plus 4. So 2x plus 1, and then x plus 4. And then, of course, you want to check it. So 2x squared plus 8 plus 1 is 9, and then 1 times 4 is 4. And so this does indeed. Now, could you have guessed it? Probably. But there will be ones where this is very helpful, and this is what I use every time, and it helps me stay organized, and it helps me break down some pretty complicated problems. Okay, so for instance, here we have 6x squared plus x minus 15. And I'm going to go ahead and do this. 6 times 15 is 90. And then 1. So I'm thinking about the factors of 90. You know, I could do this. I could do 1 and 90. But basically, they're going to have to subtract. And I know it's subtract because there's a minus in the problem. I could do 2 and 45, and I could do 3 and 30. But really, let's pick something kind of obvious. Wouldn't you just do 10 times 9? Right? Isn't the difference of 10 and 9 1? So I'm going to write that down. All right. And then this time I have to consider the signs, because in the original problem I have a plus and a minus. That means that 10 times 9 is going to have to be, oh, I'm sorry, that should have been negative 90, shouldn't it? Negative 90, because I had 6 times negative 15. So one of these is going to have to be negative. The x down here is positive. So that means that this is going to have to be 10 minus 9. Does everybody see that? So 10 times negative 9 is negative 90. 10 minus 9 is 1. The last thing we do is divide both sides by A. A is 6, and then reduce. So 2 will go in here 5 times, 2 will go in here 3 times, 3 will go in here 3 times, this is negative, and 3 will go in here 2 times. So when I go to write this one out, this is f of x, I have 3x minus 5, sorry, plus 5, 3x plus 5, and 2x minus 3. Well, let's check it. This is 6x squared, minus 9 plus 10 is plus 1, and then minus 15, and that's correct. So this is a method that can be used, and I think you'll like it if you get used to it. Okay, one final example. One thing you'll notice when you're factoring is that in order to make it a little bit easier, if you can factor something out, that might make this more a little easier to work. So this one actually has a common factor. So f of k is, notice I can factor out a 4, so k squared plus k minus 2. And then from here I don't even really need the x method, right? I can just, k and k, what are the factors of 2? 2 and 1. The middle term is positive, so that means the bigger number will have to be positive and the smaller number negative. And if I get it backwards, no big deal, I'll just fix it. K squared minus 1 plus 2 is plus 1 minus 2. So f of k equals. And that's how that's factored.